Ladies and gentlemen, this is the very unpredictable Matt Hardy, and you're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com. Be prepared, because like Matt Hardy, In Your Head is very unpredictable.
All right, we have returned, and we've got Matt Hardy on the line. I don't know if he's still version 1. I don't know what version we have, but we have the original one and only Matt Hardy. How you doing?
Yeah, well, good. How are you guys? I think we left version 1 back in the mid-2000s. Now it's just Matt Hardy, the very unpredictable Matt Hardy.
Uh-huh. There's Matthew, there's Matt. You never know which one you're going to get.
No, you never know what you're going to get. Actually, it's been one of my things. Going into wrestling in 2011, I want to try and make professional wrestling unpredictable again. And there's a couple ways I have in mind as far as doing so. And it's just, I think one of the things that's actually hurt wrestling is that so many things are predictable, and so much stuff has to be reruns, and things happen over and over again. So my whole goal for 2011 is to create a character and a whole mindset and mind frame is totally different, totally unpredictable from anything there is in the wrestling industry currently.
Yeah, and you're a guy who really uses the internet in wrestling. And a lot of people kind of look down on the internet, especially in wrestling, like a lot of other wrestlers and even other fans. They say, "Oh, you're an internet smart" or whatnot. What is your opinion of the internet, and has it helped or hurt wrestling?
Well, I think other wrestlers used to. Like, I was one of the first guys to really endorse the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it now, I mean, more people than ever on it. I mean, obviously, Shawn Michaels, who was very anti-internet early in the day, he's got a Twitter page, he's got a YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
Now that he's out of wrestling, he's promoting himself. I think one thing I did before anybody else did was just promote myself outside the walls of WWE and the wrestling business, And now everyone pretty much across the board has a Twitter. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin has one.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about dinosaur eggs and chickens. It's good times.
He is really out there. But back to answer your question, too, man, I think the internet has had its positive and negative effects on the business, obviously. I mean, I think one of the positives it's had is for guys that are in the industry. I think it's a way for them to be known. I mean, because now you can have guys, back in the day, if someone was in a territory and they weren't on TV, there was no real way of knowing about them. Mm-hmm. Now you can have matches that are done at an independent show. It can be put on YouTube. You can become like, a phenomenon across the World Wide Web, and people can actually know who you are and see the kind of talent you possess, because of the World Wide Web. Mm-hmm. On the other side of that coin, you actually have, once any piece of information gets out there, it starts rolling down a hill, and all of a sudden a pebble can turn into the world's largest snowball.
Yeah.
So the internet has its positives and negatives like anything else does. And whenever you have like a form of social networking, whenever a story gets passed down from the original source and then goes to outlet 1, outlet 2, outlet 3, outlet 4, outlet 5, it's always going to change. In any story, any rumor that goes. And that's one of the negative things about the internet is because a lot of times you see things that are reported that are very very far off from what the actual true factual information is.
Yeah. Now, when you were in WWE and before, like, everyone else was starting using the internet, did they ever get mad at you? Like, what are you doing, saying this stuff online, putting up videos, and that kind of stuff?
Not really, not publicly, but, I'm sure that I kind of always had I think I was always kind of, tied to being an internet guy because I was, I was going to make sure, once again, if you go to www.thehardyshow.com, back in 2005, I actually started a business outside of wrestling so that, I've created several different ways of making myself income, making myself have, other ways of living life as opposed to the wrestling business. And, I've done that originally through the internet, whether it's from, websites or YouTube channels, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think early on a lot of people did. They were like, he's kind of an internet guy. But, now it's just like a lot of people look at me and they go, wow, you were the pioneer of all this stuff you started. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've actually had some people who looked down on it in the first actually said, no, that's really cool that you were like the pioneer of social networking in wrestling. So.
Yeah, kind of like Mick Foley with the wrestling books.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was the pioneer of that, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and of course everyone knows it, but we have the link on the website, themattHardyShow.com, and we've had a lot of the guests on from there, Phil Shatter and Shannon Moore. And what season you guys up to?
We are actually in season 10. We have filmed everything for season 10, so we're actually starting to shoot stuff for season 11 now. So
yeah.
10 seasons in, and we're actually, once again, it's not just the Matt Hardy Show. It's actually www.thehardyshow you can go to, and I have a guy that just actually moved up here who's a web designer, web specialist. His name's Eric Robbins. He's actually did a great job re-innovating the site. from scratch. And we have a lot of cool new things. I've actually got Kimo, a guy who wrestles, who's getting ready to head up a whole new thing as far as stacking a bunch of merchandising, a bunch of different products and shirts and different things in the store. I mean, we're really in 2011 going to make this thing into a legit business, especially with myself and Jeff being free to be able to do whatever we want to do now, as opposed to being underneath the WWE contract where everything is so strict and so regulated.
Not a lot of people would be thinking you're in WWE. It's like the top promotion, make a lot of money, and how frustrated did you have to be to want to leave it?
Well, it's a combination of things, combination of, being frustrated, a combination of my body. Like, my body was in such bad, like, I was just so beat up between, the last couple years with all the injuries I sustained, and they kind of, like, ended up, compiling on top of one another. It started back to, when I had my abdominal tear, which I just kind of worked through, and then I had a broken hand, and eventually my abdominal tear became a full-fledged 5-inch slash in my abdominal wall that I had to have surgery on. Just my body was so beat up, and it was so hard for me to get into shape or get healthy, and it's just, with that schedule, there's no getting off. And when you're on the road, you're working 5 days a week, Mm-hmm. If you're on Raw, you leave on Friday, you come home on Wednesday. If you're on SmackDown, you leave on Saturday, you come home on Wednesday. Sorry, you come home Tuesday on Raw, SmackDown Wednesday. But, I mean, 5 days a week as a minimum, and then you throw in overseas trips, you throw in any time that you might go, to another continent or whatever, you add on longer loops. I mean, 5 days a week at a minimum, at 52 weeks a year, you're looking at 260 days right there. And then you start adding international dates in, man, you're on the road near 300 days a year, and appearances and whatnot, promotional stuff. And it's just hard to be on the road and kind of have, that little sleep and that little time to train, that little time to stay in physical shape and go out and work at, the highest degree every night, especially when you've been doing it for, 12 and a half, 13 years like I had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Undertaker is a great example. I feel bad for Taker in a lot of ways because, he's a guy who works a very limited schedule, but anytime he comes back and starts working on a regular basis, he ends up getting hurt now. It's just his body has been through so much over the course of the last 18 to 20 years that he's been there, It's just, and your body wasn't made to fall on wood and steel, and what we do, you're not doing your body any favors. And I just got to the point where my body needed time off. I needed to recuperate, and I really couldn't get time off from there. And besides being frustrated, it was just like, for me to be healthy, it was time for me to leave and let myself heal both physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's anything they should do to change that? Like have a shorter schedule or a lesser schedule? You don't have to work so much. Plus, do you think? Go on.
I was going to say I agree. I'm a total component of actually rotating people off for 6 or 8 weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. I think that would actually work wonders for people because I can tell you, like, every time I've been injured, whether it was my torn ACL or when I had my elbow scoped or even appendectomy, whatever may have been, I was off to that injury, and it's like you get off to that injury and you rehab that injury, but the rest of your body starts feeling like incredible and amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because you feel really well and you rehab the injury and eventually the injury gets well and you come back again. And then like 2 or 3 months, once again, you're back to like pulling yourself out of bed in the morning and having problems sleeping because of the schedule. I really think if there was a way that they could take guys and they could decide like, all right, well, we're going to give, these 2 or 3 guys like 6 to 8 weeks off at this point during the year, and you have to take it, just mm-hmm. pay the guys. They can do it with the money they make with, TVs that they're getting paid for all across the world, give the guys some money while the guys are off, and have guys work, 9 to 10 months a year as opposed to working, nonstop, 12 months year round.
Yeah.
I think it would do everybody's body wonders, and I think it would actually tack on a lot of time and longevity to people's careers.
Yeah. When you said they have to do it, I was going to bring that up because don't you think it would have to be mandatory? Otherwise, people would say, well, I don't want to take time off because it would be kind of like mentality like I'm too tough to take time off or, I don't want someone to take my place. If it wasn't mandatory, you think like the wrestlers would take time off?
No, you're absolutely right. It has to be mandatory. Because, I was the same way, especially when I was young and extremely healthy and, just felt invincible to the world. Like, I didn't want any time off, and I always felt like I had someone, something to prove. And, whether you love it or hate it, the way the wrestling business is, the person who, ends up working the hardest and longest, or a lot of times the people that secure the, the better spots. So it would have to be like a mandatory thing. And once again, they've made a lot of steps in trying to do things as far as, as far as drug testing goes and, as far as, the concussion research and the impact testing and different things they've done. But, another step they could really do to even go further is giving mandatory time off so that everyone has a certain amount of time for their body to heal. I mean, is there anything else like professional wrestling that runs year-round with that kind of hectic schedule?
No.
I mean, football has an off-season, baseball has an off-season, basketball, everything has an off-season.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Nobody goes year-round nonstop like that,
Mm-hmm.
And with the exception of missing one day, and the only day I missed was when Lita had her neck surgery. I actually took that day off so I could be with her that day she had her neck surgery. That was the only one day I asked for off in 13 years there. The rest of the time, if I was ever off, it was because it was hurt.
Yeah. Now, do you still talk to Amy?
Very, very little. Occasionally, but very little.
Yeah. Now, we had her on a couple months ago, and you actually you did a video about the interview. Some of the stuff she said. I think we asked her, "Have you seen your videos?" And she was like, "Well, what happened to that guy?" And when you heard about that, like did that hurt your feelings, or were you mad, or like what?
No, not really. I mean, I'm way past a feelings being hurt point in life now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Honestly, there was so much hype and so much nonsense and so much fictional information out there regarding what was going on in my release. Basically, I knew I had a bridge of 75 to 90 days until, I could do something else or, really be back in limelight again. So I was going to do whatever I had to do to keep people talking about me, and obviously it worked.
Yeah.
And honest to God,
positive and negative.
Yeah, positive and negative. I mean, the first time when I was released, going around, do the whole, Lita Edge thing, I started up a controversy, just kept my name in the news. This time around it was a little different, but still, I kept people talking about me, so I would stay relevant until, it was time for me to make my next career move.
Mm-hmm. Now, why didn't you credit us?
Well, actually, I'll credit you now because I didn't actually realize it was your show at the time.
All right.
I will credit you right here and now, and I'll make sure to add you guys into one of my YouTube entry.
All right.
In your head radio. I credit you guys for it for the whole birth of that YouTube entry.
Good stuff, man. Something I was going to ask you because to me it was always like it always seemed like they thought Jeff was a star, just like seemed like WWE thought Edge was a star, and they never really pushed Christian the same way. Even though I think the guy is awesome, I always thought you should have been bigger. Like you're so over with the fans and stuff. Could you see that? Could you tell they just favored him a little bit more than you?
I think so. And first and foremost, thank you for that. It's very kind of you to say. But yeah,
I've said it for years on the show, and I'm not just saying it because you're on here.
Right. Well, thank you again, very, very sincerely. But I think it's one of those things. I look back at when we were teaming together as the Hardys and the Hardy Boys, and I would highlight what Jeff's strengths were. Jeff's strengths were doing was from the Lions or Swantons, and my strengths were having a more solid matches and having different things, more basic fundamental principles than Jeff would do. But my things were a lot stronger than his. Mm-hmm. So the majority of the time when matches were being kind of structured or put together, I would be the guy behind it. So I would kind of highlight Jeff, and I would highlight myself as well. And actually, once again, going back to Lita or Amy, I mean, I made sure during every match where a lot of guys wouldn't have done this, that, even if I was going to have a match and I was winning the match, I would make sure she would, get her Karana in, so that would become like an over move or an established move. And if you ever do have her on the show again, there was actually a point where I told her, I said, you know what, that there was a point where we had something with her and Trish, and Trish was going to push her off and bump her through a table. Mm-hmm. And I actually told her, I said, you know what, Amy, I said, if you listen to me, I promise you this. Either I'm going to get you killed or I'm going to make you the most over woman in wrestling right now. And she said, okay, I'll give it a chance. And I actually, for the time she was a babyface, she definitely was the most over girl in wrestling at that period.
Oh, definitely. Intro, did you have a question from the board?
Crystal in Denver, she wants to know, would you ever wrestle in TNA?
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy is towards TNA and WWE now is never say never, but the one thing, I would say never to right now is just a full-time schedule with no time off, because I don't think, my body could hold up to it now, and nor would I want to do that, because I still have many outside projects I'd want to be involved in, so who knows? Never say never is truly the answer to that question.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of your brother's work in TNA currently?
I'm a big fan of it. I definitely think, it was an uphill battle with Jeff becoming a bad guy and immortal and becoming the Antichrist of TNA, but I think his change of character has been really good, and he's been very believable, and he's done a great job and played the role really well. And I know a lot of people don't dig the title, but I think the title fits him perfectly, especially if you know Jeff. You know,
Yeah.
obviously, just it's kind of like based after the way he draws and his artistic liberties. You know.
Hmm. I always play devil's advocate there. I say, don't you think it's kind of a good heel move to just take the belt and just totally change it to something that most people wouldn't like? It's kind of like the next step from like when Hogan spray painted NWO over the title.
Yeah, I mean it is, and I mean I thought it was a good move altogether. And then too, once again, I like the title, and I think it fits Jeff perfectly as far as him being, you know, in that role as the Antichrist in professional wrestling, the guy who everybody loved, who they never thought would go bad, and did go bad, you know, and to have that title, especially in that actually, that sums it up very well. You know, it's much like when Hogan joined the NWO and won the title and painted NWO on it. You know, it's just like it's their show, so they're calling the shots. So.
Yeah. Now, another guy that's been on YouTube, and you guys had a little back and forth, and then I think he took all stuff down. It's Paul London. Do you have any thoughts on him?
No, I mean, Paul's a real talented guy. It's real weird. I think, Paul's got some issues, I think, amongst himself. But, no, I really don't. I mean, I guess I don't know what happened to the stuff or whatever. Actually, it's to me, it's actually cool that he would talk about me and promote me. To me, there is no such thing as bad press. I don't care if he's talking good or bad about me. The only people that are my true close circle of friends that really know me inside out, I mean, if they say I have an issue or there's a problem, I'm worried about it, someone else that, judged me, and especially for Paul, that was pretty much the only way he could get in the news in that day and age was to bring my name up. So, to each his own. Paul's a really talented guy, and I hate he fizzled out like he did because he was an amazingly talented athletic guy, and I don't know, he just had a lot of he couldn't quite put everything together, and couldn't mentally stay stable enough to work for a long period of time.
Yeah. Now, if you would say, like you said, he puts out these videos to get his name out there, just like you did, and if people like it, it's cool. If they don't like it, still talking about him. And if you wanted to use that as like a way to do something with either on the Indies or TNA or somewhere, would that be something you do?
Would that be something I would do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably do interviews. I probably wouldn't do any interviews trashing anybody. I mean, that's something you'll never see me do. Just because, like, I don't really harbor any resentment or negativity, and like in my world, in my eyes, the glass is always 3/4 full. They always say, "Do you see the glass half full or half empty?" I always say the glass is 3/4 full because I mean, I have a great life. I do think Vince McMahon. I think the WWE. They gave me a great opportunity. I fulfilled my dream by working there, and by being there almost 13 years, I had an amazing career, an amazing run. And it's just one of those things. I don't have room or time in my life for negativity. So I don't mind people doing some sort of crazy character, like Matthew was obviously a character. Which who knows? Maybe you'll see Matthew in TNA or in WWE one day. Or maybe you'll see some character I do create on YouTube. Transcend into a wrestling promotion at some point, but. My once again, my bottom line is I don't harbor resentment or I don't speak negatively about people.
Yeah. Intro, did you have anything else from the board?
I had a question of my own, actually. I just want to know, what was your favorite moment from the Hardy Show?
That's a really good question. One of the coolest moments from the Hardy Show, I think, is the Champs episode. Just because our dad was so tickled, is when I was the ECW heavyweight champ, and, Jeff was the WWE champ. And we actually did an episode talking about, how our dream was just to one day, make it to the WWE and be tag team champions one time, which we did 7 times over. And we both had, we both held several singles titles. But at that one time, to both kind of hold like, the 2 main titles in each brand was a really cool feeling. And also it was a cool moment that we actually, were able to capture in that episode. The episode's called Champs. And actually, if you go to www.thehardyshow.com, you can watch that episode for free right now with a new promotion we have going on.
That's cool. Now, one of the guys on there is Phil Shatter, who we've seen wrestle live several times, just recently for Davey Richards and Charlotte. It was pretty awesome. Do you think the security guard thing isn't a good move for him on TNA?
You know what? I think Phil is talented enough that he can use that kind of as a launching pad.
Yeah.
I think he'll be able to use that and be able to do something bigger and greater in TNA one day, because Phil's a really talented guy, and he's got a good attitude. He loves the business, which I'm very appreciative of, because it's a fact. Even if you're talented or good, if you don't
love the business, and if you're not passionate about the business, like, you won't make it in the business because it's that hard and it's that tough on you both, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So I think Phil's doing good by just having his presence on TV, by being on there every week with, my brother and, Jeff Jarrett, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair. It's a good rub, and I definitely think he can use it as a launching pad to do bigger things in the industry.
Yeah. Now, just speaking of Ric Flair, obviously younger hit than him, but now that you've been wrestling for a while, and like you said, all these injuries, do you have? I'm sure you already had respect for Flair anyway, but do you just think how's this guy still going out there doing what he does?
Yeah, no, I mean, Flair, making no doubt about it, Flair is an anomaly. I mean, people like Flair has got the gene. Like, there's actually a saying where he said that, like, he's got some kind of special, top secret, classified gene that he's not supposed to have. Like, a guy shouldn't be his age and still be able to do the things and have that kind of energy that he has. It's truly amazing. Rick's a great guy. Got to work with him in WWE a lot, and hopefully I'll get to work with him in the future at some point again. But Rick just totally entertains me, and it's like we bonded a lot just because Rick and myself and Jeff were all from North Carolina. We actually all got along really well. So Rick's amazing, man. He's got the gene. That's how I'll sum it up. And also, he did himself a favor by limiting his number of ladder matches and table matches and TLC matches too.
Yeah, I still think he's probably the most entertaining guy on the mic on TV right now.
No doubt,
he's got to be up there anyway.
No doubt. I mean, there's a couple times that him and Mick Foley had went back and forth on TNA that actually had me very captivated. Just sitting there watching. He's amazing, man. I mean, Ric Flair is truly, in my opinion, I think he's the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yeah. I want to mention this, January 15th, you return to the ring, and you're wrestling a guy who, you've had a history with. MVP, I think, in a way, your career is very similar, too. I think you guys had an awesome feud, and I thought both of you guys would eventually get to, the world champ in WWE, and now you're both gone from WWE.
Yeah, well, it is. We did have a lot of similarities. We came along, and our feud actually wasn't even supposed to be. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that me and him both kind of creatively, did some things, and then we, talked to the right people, and then we were kind of like at the right place at the right time. So it was one of those things where we were able to stretch this thing out and make it really entertaining. And to me, that was definitely one of my favorite feuds because it was just so different and so unique. And actually, some of the times when the Office tried to be creative or take control of it is, I think, some of the low points of it. When myself and MVP, when we were in control of it, I thought that's when it was at its best because it was truly us being us. Because during that time, we didn't know each other very well, and as it went on, it's funny because storyline-wise, we were enemies, but we kind of became competitive, friendly enemies as it went on. And in life, we kind of became friends as well. So it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a lot of fun mixing it up with him on the 15th because we do have that storied background. He's another guy that was very talented, and no matter where he went, no matter what crowd he walked out in front of across this planet, like me, always got a great reaction. People always cheered for him and chanted MVP, and just different timing. Right now they are in this youth movement, and guys who are just starting, who they think they can build, and hold in these particular spots, and make X amount of dollars. That's kind of the guys that they're rolling with right now, and that's cool. I think WB has to be very careful because they're going to back themselves into a very strange corner, though, because there are a lot of people that have been around and been loyal that have been frustrated there and, have already left, and some people who, are just frustrated as it is. They have to be very careful to make sure to take care of the people, that go to the next level. Christian being a prime example of that. I think Christian is one of the most talented guys in the ring. And, if Christian doesn't win a world championship, I think it's an injustice.
Yeah. It seemed, actually, I said this before on the show, it seemed like it was like a whole group of guys that went to a certain level, like MVP, Christian, and never go past that level. Everyone always say, WCW had a glass ceiling, but I see a lot of that in WWE, too. I think guys would debut and go right to the world title.
Yeah, it's just changed a lot. They're into a youth movement thing, and, without going in, too much of their politics and finances. I mean, WWE, they have younger guys they have locked in for a lot of years where they can pay them a small amount of money, and those are the guys that are prepping to be their future stars.
Mm-hmm. Do you think a lot of that happened after WCW folded, where
Oh yeah, WCW, it was the beginning of the downfall and change of everything. When the two two major things started changing the wrestling industry. One was obviously, when WCW folded and we bought them. And the second thing was, 9/11, because that's what started hurting the economy. And the economy is still, never recovered. The economy is still in bad shape. And obviously entertainment is going to be one of the first things that takes the hit. And now there's hardly any brand split, because they do have, between the injuries and just so few guys that are over, to a degree that can carry a television show. I don't know. They just have to be very careful, because they're really overextending so many of their talents there. And then they might roll the dice on a lot of these guys, that are considered the youth movement, and they might not pan out. They might not work. And then, then if you have your guys that are established, your Edges and Canes, and then they get hurt and they can't work, then you're kind of in a tough spot.
Yeah. Let's try to get to a couple of callers here real quick before we let Matt go. We got Nikhil calling in from England.
Hello? Yeah.
Just that's a quick question.
Yeah,
what's going on over in England?
Hello. Nothing much. I just want to ask, when did you find out that Jeff Hardy and Shannon Moore were going to TNA, and do you think as a result of it you got some backstage heat?
Yeah, I knew about it. I knew about it a few weeks before it happened. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, because Jeff ended up going there, that they couldn't punish Jeff, obviously, because he didn't work for the company. But hey, well, the other guy was named Hardy. We can play with him a little bit. So that totally doesn't surprise me. I would never use that as an excuse, but that's just the way things are in the business, and that's the politics of it. And it is what it is, and you learn to deal with it. And regardless of what's going on with me, I was making good money. I was making a good living. So I'm not gonna complain about it. But yeah, I'm sure if Jeff hadn't have jumped to TNA, I probably would have had a better opportunity to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks for calling in, Nikhil.
No worries, thank you.
Yep. I got Crystal in Denver.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Good. How are you? What's going on, Crystal in Denver?
Oh, not much. I actually got the pleasure of meeting your brother out here in Denver a few years ago. I actually got to rent a car for him when he was working for WWE. But my question to you is what future endeavors are you looking at doing besides, maybe going to TNA? What else are you looking at doing?
Well, the big thing that I'm doing right now is we're really growing the Hardy Show into like a huge, legitimate business, which is, once again, I'll say it again, www.thehardyshow.com, where we, are really upgrading our product as far as our episodes go, and as far as our website goes, and as far as our merchandise goes. Also, I'm in some talks about doing a couple different reality series. One is something similar to the Hardy Show, and one is actually kind of a Tough Enough idea, which none of that is none of that is set in stone yet, but those are things I'm working on, things that I've wanted to do. And then I have a couple other little business ventures here and there I'm wanting to branch out and do that, a couple things I can't talk about right now, but I mean, there's definitely plenty of things for me to do out there.
Cool.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks for calling in, Crystal.
Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm. We got one more here. We got Joel calling in from Portugal.
Portugal.
Yes. How you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing fine.
You wasted your question, Joel.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. Go on.
Oh, okay. I have a last common question that I wanted to ask you. As we know, your career in wrestling started back when you were doing backyard wrestling rather and other folks. My question is that being that many kids nowadays emulate what you guys did, back in the day, do you look back at your years in backyard wrestling and regret being that you see nowadays kids thinking that, we're going to be like the Hardy Boys and do backyard wrestling, which, we all agree it's quite unsafe to do.
Right. I don't look back and regret it. I think what we did was very different from what kids did later, but I think at the end of the day it becomes like a parent's responsibility to know what your kid's doing. Because I know our dad certainly knew that Jeff and I were out on the trampoline bouncing around and that we were building a ring out there. Actually, when we first built a ring, one of my friends actually cut our phone line in half, and our dad didn't let us use the ring for a month because we didn't have a phone for a couple weeks. But when kids start doing things, I'm sure like what you're talking about is like jumping off the house and jumping on glass and nails and stuff. That's really, really ridiculous and really unsafe because that's not going to get your job anywhere. It's not going to make you a living. And I always say, if you do want to try and make it in the professional wrestling business, the first rule of thumb is never, cripple yourself before you get the opportunity. So get your education, go to school, and then, go to a wrestling school and learn how to do things right. And then from there, start doing independence and try and work your way up to one of the televised companies, whether it's TNA or WWE.
Just real quick on the backyard wrestling, because I think just like most wrestling fans, I used to do that. But whenever we did it, I'm sure, I was just wondering if this is what you guys would do, was you wouldn't try to go out there, like you said, and just cut each other up. You'd actually watch the wrestling and try to do the moves where they would look good and you weren't hurting each other.
Yeah,
Isn't that what you were looking for when you were,
Absolutely. I mean, we just emulated what we would see on TV.
Yeah.
What we'd see on NWA and on WWF at the time.
Yeah, and you try to look for little tricks, and I'm sure you don't know them all until you get into the business, but I think that's what most fans out there would do. But anyway, thanks for calling in, Joel. You go on, sorry. Did I cut you off, Matt?
No.
All right, cool. And I forgot to mention this, but your match with MVP, that's for Northeast Wrestling, that's going to be in Poughkeepsie?
Yes, Poughkeepsie on January 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really excited about that. It's going to be fun. Going to be a great show. The Northeast Wrestling promotion actually runs really great events, and I'll be promoting it as well on my YouTube channel, which is actually youtube.com/Matt Hardy Brand, and my Twitter page as well, which is twitter.com/Matt Hardy Brand. You can follow me on both those things, and we'll probably actually be turning the January 15th the whole ordeal with myself and MVP on an episode to be on PartyShow.com.
Well, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You get to see some backstage stuff.
Yeah, there's actually an episode that has backstage stuff on the Hardy Show right now when Jeff actually worked for NEW, and it has Mick Foley's in it and Jeff and Shannon, several other guys.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks, Joel. Did you have a quick question, Inchman?
Yeah, I had a quick question, real quick. You're a man who knows about relationships in wrestling. What do you think about Michelle McCool and The Undertaker? Think they'll last?
Well, they seem to very truly and genuinely love one another. So we'll see. I don't know, man. It's really hard. Sometimes in relationships, you see two people together that you think will never break up or never fall apart, but they do. It's really hard to say. They seem really good now, and I really like them both. Like, I have a ton of respect for Taker, and I like Michelle a lot too. So right now they seem to be doing really, really good. But who knows, man? Who knows what the future holds?
Mm-hmm. I wonder who sent that question in, Incher.
I have no idea, Jack.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on tonight, Matt. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you come back sometime.
All right, man. Thank you guys for having me, man. You guys, I certainly appreciate it, and you guys take care.
Hey, what's up? This is Amy Dumas. You may know me as Lita. And you're listening to InYourHeadOnline.com.